Om Aganda Timarandasya Ganajana Shivakaya Chakshur Umrisamyena Tajma Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Krishna Kirtana Bhanana Tanapano.
Hare Krishna. Welcome back to this video series on the Bhagavad Gita as it is, translated by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are currently on Chapter 12, Devotional Service. In Chapter 12, Arjuna, after witnessing Krishna's awesome universal form, wishes to clarify his own position as a devotee. He thus asks whether worshiping Krishna through devotional service or worshiping the impersonal is superior. Krishna immediately responds that one engaged in his personal service is the topmost. One should therefore engage in Krishna's service and fix his mind solely upon Krishna. If that cannot be done, one should follow the rules and regulations of Bhakti-yoga, which purify one so that they can come to the platform of pure devotional service. Text number 1. Arjuna inquired, which is considered to be more perfect, those who properly engage in their devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? The Blessed Lord said, he whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshiping me with great transcendental faith, is considered to be the most perfect. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. For one who worships me, giving up all his activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, who has fixed his mind upon me, O son of Pritha, for him I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Arjuna wants to end the middle 6 set of chapters to conclude with Krishna discussing bhakti. He especially wants this because the vivid description of the universal form in chapter 11 naturally fills us with awe, reverence, and fear, none of which are conducive for spiritual advancement. In addition, to help us avoid mistaking the universal form within matter as the supreme aspect of the absolute truth, and to ensure that everyone recognizes the superiority of bhakti over jnana, Arjuna now questions Krishna. Arjuna starts chapter 12 with a question, which is considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman? Krishna's answer is clear. Devotees engaged in his service are better. Prabhupada's purport gives practical examples of Krishna consciousness work on the transcendental platform. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna, or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. Those worshipping the impersonal certainly achieve Krishna, but only his effulgence, the Brahma-jyoti, his nirvisesha or formless aspect, devoid of attributes and activities. If by good fortune they later meet an exalted devotee, they may accept the personal path and eventually achieve Krishna's service. The impersonalist path of renunciation of activities is troublesome and miserable. Why? The embodied soul senses are always demanding engagement and want contact with the sense objects. However, no spiritual activity exists for one who has renounced work, nor is the impersonalist able to fix his mind on the goal of his meditation. For how can one conceive of the inconceivable? We may argue that a devotee also experiences trouble on his path because he too must follow rules and regulations that restrict the contact of the senses with their objects. However, a devotee's misery is reduced because he experiences Krishna's presence. Rejecting Maya's demands for Krishna's service actually brings him pleasure. Impersonalists may read this verse and respond, because Krishna has certified the path of renunciation and meditation as troublesome, I will engage in devotional service to Krishna, though I know that his form is temporary. Thus, I will soon achieve Brahman. Krishna, however, has already nullified in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, texts 11 and 12, the validity of bhakti practiced in this fashion. Fools deride me when I descend in human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demoniac and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. Although a devotee may experience difficulties, he has faith in Krishna's promise to personally care for him and deliver him. Srila Prabhupada powerfully expresses this. A devotee does not need to practice Ashtanga Yoga in order to transfer his soul to the spiritual planets. The responsibility is taken by the Supreme Lord himself. He clearly states here that he himself becomes the deliverer. A child is cared for by his parents, and thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to other planets. Although a man who has fallen into the ocean may struggle very hard and may be very expert in swimming, he cannot save himself. But if someone comes and picks him up from the water, then he is easily rescued. Similarly, the Lord picks up the devotee from this material existence. One simply has to practice the easy process of Krishna consciousness and fully engage himself in devotional service. A devotee's responsibility is to cultivate devotion and eagerness to serve Krishna. Krishna then accepts full responsibility for rescuing his devotee from Maya. The devotee's mood is so pure that he doesn't even desire the liberation the Lord is willing to bestow upon him. Lord Chaitanya prays, all I want is your devotional service, even if it means taking birth after birth in this material world. That intense, fully pure, and devotional service of a devotee is to serve Krishna attracts his mercy. In the next 5 verses, texts 8 through 12, Krishna, beginning with the highest stage, describes the different levels of achievement in bhakti. Text number 8. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live with me always, without a doubt. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulated principles of Bhakti-yoga. And this way you will develop a desire to attain me. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti-yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness, then try to act giving up all the results of your work and try to be self-situated. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. One who is not envious, but who is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself the proprietor, who is free from false ego and equal both in happiness and distress, who is always satisfied and engaged in devotional service with determination, and whose mind and intelligence are in agreement with me, he is very dear to me. A Jnani tries to fix his mind on the unmanifested and the reality of his spiritual existence as a soul. Krishna's direct order to his devotee, however, is given in verse 8. Always fix your mind upon me, my all-attractive, beautiful form. To emphasize this instruction, Krishna uses the word mayi, upon me, 3 times in this verse. By always meditating upon Krishna, one will undoubtedly always live with Krishna. Thus, Krishna has explained the most advanced stage who always think of Krishna in attachment and transcendental affection. Because constant remembrance of Krishna is an exalted consciousness, one naturally wonders, what practice should I follow if I am unable to always remember Krishna? Krishna answers, then follow the regulated principles of Bhakti-yoga. Srila Prabhupada describes the practices of sadhana that elevate one to the stage of attachment to Krishna. To practice the regulated principles of Bhakti-yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple, and offer prayers and chant Hare Krishna, then collect flowers to offer to the deity, cook foodstuffs to offer the deity, take prasadam, and so on. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow, and one should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from devotees. This practice can help anyone rise to the level of love of God. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami has quoted a statement from Padma Purana that describes constant remembrance of Krishna as the goal of all sadhana practices. Krishna is the origin of Lord Vishnu. He should always be remembered and never be forgotten at any time. All the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastras should be the servants of these 2 principles. But what should one do if he finds himself unable, even by practice, to always think of Krishna? Krishna responds, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage of life. Again, Srila Prabhupada gives practical instructions for one at the stage of spiritual development. If one has sufficient money, he can help in building an office or a temple for propagating Krishna consciousness, or he can help with publications. There are various fields of activities, and one should be interested in such activities. If one cannot sacrifice the results of his activities, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness. This voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one to rise to a higher state of love for God, whereupon one becomes perfect. What can we do if we are unable to act on any of the above stages? Krishna answers, then try to act giving up the results of your work and try to be self-situated. What if we are unable to give up the results of our work? Krishna says, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. We can see through this sequence that Krishna makes it easy for us to approach him. The goal of everyone should be to ascertain what the ultimate goal of life is, and then how to attain it. Thus, these verses describe a sequence. Text 8, perfected devotional service, always remembering Krishna. Text 9, devotional service in practice, performing sadhana bhakti and working for Krishna. Text 10 and text 12, nishkam karma yoga, working with detachment and offering the fruits of the work to Krishna, which will award one peace. 2 other stages, which are lower than nishkam karma yoga, are also mentioned in text 12. Yoga and cultivate knowledge, or Brahma Gyan. Still lower than Brahma Gyan is the method mentioned in text 11. Detached work without offering the fruits to Krishna. Text number 15. He for whom no one is put into difficulty, and who is not disturbed by anxiety, who is steady in happiness and distress, is very dear to me. A devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and who does not strive for some result, is very dear to me. One who neither grasps pleasure or grief, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, is very dear to me. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equiposed in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contamination, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and engaged in devotional service, is very dear to me. He who follows this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engages himself with faith, making me the supreme goal, is very, very dear to me. The last 8 texts of this chapter, 13 through 20, describe the internal symptoms of persons engaged in pure devotional service. The term avesta, or non-envious, is exemplified when a devotee thinks in terms of his enemy. This person hates me, and that is because of my own karma. I know I deserve worse due to my past actions. Krishna is the ultimate controller and has only given me a small token of what I deserve. Humility is one of the qualities of a devotee. In his purports to these closing texts of chapter 12, Srila Prabhupada helps us to understand the qualities of a devotee. Text 15 he writes, "A few of a devotee's qualifications are further being described. No one is put into difficulty, anxiety, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such a devotee, since a devotee is kind to everyone. He does not act in such a way as to put others into anxiety. At the same time, if others try to put a devotee into anxiety, he is not disturbed. It is by the grace of the Lord that he is not bothered by any outward disturbance." Generally, a materialistic person becomes very happy when there is something for his sense gratification and his body. But when he sees that others have something for their sense gratification and he doesn't have it, he is sorry and envious. When he is expecting some retaliation from an enemy, he is in a state of fear. And when he cannot successfully execute something, he becomes dejected. A devotee who is always transcendental to all these disturbances is very dear to Krishna. In text 17 he writes, "A pure devotee is neither happy nor distressed over material gain and loss, nor is he very much anxious to get a son or a disciple, nor is he distressed by not getting them. If he loses anything which is very dear to him, he does not lament. Similarly, if he does not get what he desires, he is not distressed. He is transcendental in the face of all kinds of auspiciousness, inauspiciousness, and sinful activities. He is prepared to accept all kinds of risk for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord." In text 19 he writes, "A devotee is always free from all bad association. Sometimes one is praised and sometimes one is defamed. That is the nature of human society. But a devotee is always transcendental to the artificial fame and infamy, distress or happiness. He is very patient. He does not speak of anything but the topics about Krishna. Therefore he is called silent. Silent does not mean that one should not speak. Silent means that one should not speak nonsense. One should speak only of the essentials, and the most essential speech for the devotee is to speak for the sake of the Supreme Lord." Srila Prabhupada also writes, "We may find some repetition in the descriptions of the qualifications of a devotee, but this is just to emphasize the fact that a devotee must acquire all these qualifications. Without good qualifications, one cannot be a pure devotee. One who is not a devotee has no good qualifications. One who wants to be recognized as a devotee should develop good qualifications. Of course, he does not extraneously endeavor to acquire these qualifications, but engagement in Krishna consciousness and devotional service automatically helps him to develop them. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur concludes this chapter. These characteristics that arise in one from devotion and from peacefulness are not material qualities. This is in accordance with the statement, Krishna is satisfied only by devotion, never by material qualities. The devotees described up to this point have each perfectly cultivated one aspect of their personalities. Those mentioned in this verse, however, are desirous of perfecting all these qualities. Therefore, even during the stage of sadhana, they are superior to those on the other paths, even if those individuals have achieved the perfected stage of their paths. For this reason, the word ativa, extremely, or very, very, is used in this verse. Srila Prabhupada summarizes this chapter in his purport. In this chapter, from verse 2 through the end, the Supreme Lord has explained the processes of transcendental service for approaching Him. Such processes are very dear to the Lord, and He accepts a person engaged in them. The question of who is better, one who is engaged in the path of impersonal Brahman, or one who is engaged in the personal service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was raised by Arjuna, and the Lord replied to him so explicitly that there is no doubt that devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the best of all processes of spiritual realization. That ends this episode. Thank you for watching. Hope you return when we will discuss Chapter 13, entitled Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Tarakam Bande Rupa Sanatana Raghujagam Sri Jiva Gopalakam Krishna Kirtana Ganana Tana Param Primam Vira Dhira Jana Priya Priya Kana Nima Sajam Pujito Krishna Kirtana Ganana Tana Param